This is your Weather Xtreme video for Sunday, March the 12th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before I forget, ABC 3340 is proud to be providing storm spotter training across central Alabama primarily during the month of March, ending on the first weekend in April. And there's our schedule, so be sure if one of those is near you to come out and join us. Satellite image this morning shows we have a good deal of clouds over the southeastern U.S., but it is clearing from the northwest. As you can see, clear skies over West Tennessee as well as northern Arkansas. Looks like we are watching this weak low-pressure area move along the Gulf Coast. But for us, fortunately, radar shows that the rain has moved out of central Alabama. It looks like we should have a dry day, although as long as the clouds stick in, you may see a little bit of light drizzle. In the upper atmosphere, the flow is definitely northwesterly as we have a long wave trough position over the eastern part of the United States, and that is going to be bringing, and as it gets stronger, going to be bringing some pretty cold air our way for the middle of the week. There's a look at temperatures across the country, and as you can see, it's still rather chilly along the northern tier of the United States with single digits all the way from eastern Montana all the way across the Great Lakes and over into New England. And that area is also getting ready for a big nor'easter. We'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the GFS. Temperatures across central Alabama this morning are down around the middle 30 mark for most locations. A little bit cooler in the northeast where we see Fort Payne at 32. As I mentioned, the radar shows that much of the rain is out of the area, still raining across the southern counties of Alabama. The watch warning map, the dark blues and medium blues that you see in the Tennessee River Valley and Ohio River Valley are freeze freeze warnings. And then the blues and purples and reds that you see extending from Chicago back up into North Dakota, those are winter weather warnings and advisories. And the blues that you see that are kind of cyan and then a little bit kind of turquoise over at New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and up into New England, those are all winter weather watches, including blizzard watches along the coast from New York to Boston. QPF-wise, this next round of wet weather for us on Monday is going to be fairly quick, and therefore it doesn't look like it's going to be very much in the way of rainfall amounts. Storm Prediction Center has no severe weather, just some thunderstorms primarily along the southeast Louisiana coast and over the peninsula of Florida for day one. For day two, some thunderstorms are possible over the Carolinas and Virginia and parts of North Georgia. And for day three, no thunderstorms are forecast. All right, the 06Z GFS model run this morning, and there's the trough that has been producing the wet weather we've experienced over the last 24 hours, and that wet weather is moving on off to the east and should be no factor for us today as we dry out, so it should be a fairly sunny day with highs in the mid and upper 50s for the most part, maybe 60 down around Montgomery. Monday, the upper air chart shows a nice trough coming into Arkansas, and that's going to be one of these fairly quick ones that's going to blast by. It will be producing a surface low over the Mid-South area in the vicinity of St. Louis, and a front dragging down into the lower Mississippi River Valley and into the Gulf. That will blast through as that system digs into the long wave trough position. And helps to amplify that trough over the eastern part of the country. And on Tuesday, there's the nor'easter. You can see figuring out the pressure pattern there. It looks like about a 984, perhaps even a little bit lower than that. Maybe is down around 981. Surface low just off the coast of New England, producing a good deal of possible blizzard conditions for those folks up there. It also indicates the possibility we might see some wraparound precipitation over parts of Tennessee and the area to the west of the Appalachians. But I think for the most part that's going to be very, very light, and any snow that occurs will probably be primarily in the form of snow flurries. As a matter of fact, when you look at the precipitable water values around 18Z on Tuesday, it looks like it's going to be very hard for the atmosphere to squeeze much, if any, moisture out of it. The trough remains with us on Wednesday, so we're going to really be cold. Looks like by Wednesday morning we should be lows down in the 20s, and I do expect the National Weather Service offices in Alabama to be issuing some freeze warnings later in the week here. The surface pattern features a surface high just to the west of Chicago, and that, if you follow the fetch back from Birmingham, it goes all the way up into eastern Canada, so it's really a cold flow. The northwesterly flow remains with us on Thursday, so we're going to stay cold as that high settles in, and so we'll get good radiational cooling. So once again, Thursday morning, probably down into the 20s once again. On Friday, we could warm up a little bit here as we see a weak ridge briefly over the area as that trough begins to move off into the Atlantic, and the GFS suggesting the possibility of maybe a front off to our west as we see moisture begin to go up the Mississippi River Valley and just to the west of the Mississippi River. By Saturday, the trough is back as the ridge kind of is pushed back with that big trough over Canada. But the GFS, for some reason, is suggesting that there will be a front that would be north of us. And this doesn't make a lot of sense. And the European is more suggestive of the front moving through, which I think makes a whole lot more sense than what the GFS is suggesting. The GFS upper air for Sunday still looks northwesterly and relatively cold, and yet it's also interesting to note that the MOS guidance is suggesting a high of 76 for Birmingham on Sunday. Things are kind of out of phase, and I'm not buying that. I think the European, and that is the solution you see here, the European is more realistic in its surface solution than the GFS is. Looking out into Voodoo country, we stay in a northwesterly flow pattern through about the 22nd, 23rd of March with a good ridge off to our west. The ridge moves our way, and we come under a pretty good ridge, but also the GFS is suggesting some weak short waves. You see one over North Georgia and eastern Tennessee, one over Iowa and Missouri, and another one back in along the eastern slopes of the Rockies. And so it looks like it's going to be somewhat of an active weather pattern. But by the end of the period, the GFS has really gone hog wild on a 591 contour over Mexico with a ridge bulging way up into the northern Rockies area. And I think this looks a little too anomalous. Not sure this one's going to happen. But it's voodoo. You know what that means. That'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video for this morning. James Spann should be back in the saddle with the next edition first thing on Monday. Stay tuned to the blog for notes on Alabama's weather. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. Have a great day and stay warm.